Now, the fallout is like an avalanche in Brisbane after what is absolutely an appalling scoreline, 59-0, an absolute surrender. But Wayne Bennett has entered into the fray with a bit of a "I told you so." So Peter Bedell has this in the Courier Mail tomorrow. Hoops, what is happening?
Well, Wayne won 6 premierships with the Brisbane Broncos and is one of the founding fathers of that club. And he sat back and had a look at what's transpired on the field on Thursday night, and then he's given a frank assessment, which is, it just highlights the way that when the interview process was conducted to appoint Anthony Seibold, and let's not forget Seibs has got 5 years to go. It was a 6-year deal, 5 years with a 1-year option in Anthony Seibold's favour. There are a number of other gentlemen interviewed. Jason Demetriou was interviewed, Kevin Walters was interviewed, and Michael Maguire was also interviewed. But what Wayne's got a beef about is that at Jason Demetriou's interview, Paul White, the CEO, didn't even show up to the interview. He had a separate private incident that meant that he couldn't be there. But Wayne just feels that was disrespectful, and he feels as though Jason Demetriou never got an absolute fair income crack at being able to be appointed into that position. He had worked under Wayne. He'd been groomed at Red Hill to one day take that position. Wayne believed he was the best person for the job, but the Power Breakers decided to go in a different direction. And then when you get a loss like you get last September, 58-0 in the opening week of the finals, and then you get another loss which is as heavy as the one we saw Thursday evening against the back-to-back premiers, it does mean that you're going to get all sorts of analysis and people starting to jump on.
I think Wayne Bennett's got every right to have an opinion on the Brisbane Broncos, given what he built there and seeing where the club's at the moment. I mean, you know, you've seen a number of the greats that had so much success there passionately speak about where the club's at the moment. They're in a huge hole. There's no doubting that. You touched on it, James. The fact that they signed a rookie coach who'd had one season, who was given an incredible roster at South Sydney, and yes, had a successful season there, but to then reward him with a 5-year contract with an option for a 6th is astounding, I believe. The fact that they've, now only a number of weeks ago, they basically flaunted the opportunity of the depth that they have in the squad in terms of having a rotation policy, and then basically surrendered in the press conference saying, we can't compete with the top teams. Now, look, yes, they ran out some fantastic talent, and sure, they were missing some blokes the other night, but I thought it exposed where Brisbane are at the moment. He's got some massive calls to make, because at my time at Brisbane, like when I turned up to Brisbane, you knew exactly what was expected of you. Brad Thorne drove the standards, Shane Webke drove the standards, Darren Lockyer, Petro Civoniceva, these blokes. There was a certain standard when you pulled on that Broncos training kit, let alone when you walked into Suncorp Stadium on a Friday night, what was expected of you. And it was similar of the traits that you saw flow on into the Queensland side for so many years, and that was about never giving up and competing. And Wayne built year after year after year on defence. And it was simply not there the other night, and that is attitude, and that is players not responding to the voices during the week in terms of the coaching staff, and how he turns that around, Anthony Seibold, how the club turns it around. I don't know how they do it, because they have so many young guys that are in desperate need of leadership on the field, and they do not have that. The form of Darius Boyd, the form of Anthony Milford, the guys that are their leaders, isn't great, is really concerning. And the fact that he can't set an example and remove those guys because he doesn't have any other quality at that level to come in, leaves him pretty exposed. I thought, some of the comments from Anthony Seibold leading into the game basically gave the players an out before they even ran onto the pitch that they were going to get beaten by the Roosters because of the quality that they were coming up against. And players smell that out. Players smell that out before they get to the ground.
And then they were given a free pass not to talk to the media after the game as well.
Absolutely unacceptable.
Which is, yeah.
I think they'll end up being fined ultimately by the NRL as a result of that decision. But just front up. It doesn't matter what it is in life. If you front up and own the error and own whatever's happened, it's a game of football. It's not brain surgery. We're not splitting the atoms here.
Mick's assessment of the Broncos is absolutely accurate. And the fact that Wayne Bennett is the godfather of Brisbane Broncos has every right to comment, but as you said, Hoops, I'm only new to this media game, but I reckon there's a few issues at South that Wayne probably needs to focus on more than worry about what's going on in Brisbane.
The fact that they conceded 58 and then there was the player review, that this would never happen again. And then, I don't think you could talk to any player that's played at that top level, at any level of rugby league, that hasn't been part of a hiding at some stage. But the fact that then they've turned that around and come into this season and done it again last week against the Eels, where they were really exposed, and then come up against the Roosters and have almost sick. Well, James Tedesco didn't play. Like, if James Tedesco plays, it could have been 70 or 80. They had a try that was a certain try that was ruled against from Josh Morris. So, for me, I think that comes down to an attitude. It comes down to a culture. And at the moment, they got too many blokes at Brisbane turning up on a Friday night just happy to pull the tracksuit on.